Yeah, so guess what?
What?
Our vigil stays.
Yay!
Oh, sorry. All right, yeah. Judge Winmill, we got the decision this morning. Really well-written decision, and he says that the vigil is clearly political expression. It's clearly protected by the First Amendment. And that while the state's statute banning camping appears to be non-content neutral on its face, that we have shown a likelihood of success of demonstrating that the state's enforcement of that statute is not content neutral. That is targeted at the Occupy Boise political protest here on this site. Now, Judge Winmill did hew to a decision by the United States Supreme Court, Clark versus Committee for Creative Nonviolence, and in that decision and in this decision, the state statute which permits a ban on camping is deemed to be enforceable by Judge Winmill. That is, that the state will be able to prohibit camping, the storage of personal items related to camping, cooking, open fires, and the like. Okay, so he also indicated that in all fairness we should be granted until the end of the week, which is March 2nd, to be able to move any of the camping materials off-site. At that point, the state will be entitled to take enforcement action against camping, although the tents and the vigil and the signs and our protest here stays. So now we're expecting to have an evidentiary hearing in probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a month from now, and we'll actually get another bite at that camping apple. Judge Winmill, and I think I'm going to read this part to you. Judge Winmill agreed with the analysis of a number of Occupy cases that have come up in the district courts across the nation. He cited Occupy Columbia versus Haley, Freeman versus Morris, Occupy Minneapolis versus County of Hennepin, and Occupy Fort Myers versus the City of Fort Myers, in deciding that sleeping in a tent in a park is expressive activity. He says even if the state enforces the statute according to its terms and does not attempt to remove the symbolic tent city, the court must still consider Occupy Boise's further claim that the ban on overnight sleeping violates their First Amendment rights. The act of sleeping in the tents conveys a message of personal commitment and sacrifice to the political cause that is not conveyed by the tent city alone. Political messages gain power by virtue of personal commitment and sacrifice. And while sleeping, isolated from context, is perhaps the least expressive activity imaginable, it becomes imbued with great meaning as used by Occupy Boise. The court therefore disagrees with Justice Scalia that sleeping can never be expressive conduct. Instead, the court finds it likely that Occupy Boise will prevail on its argument that sleeping in the context here is expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. Okay? So we're gonna take another shot at that when we get to evidentiary hearing. We got a lot of work to do before we get to that hearing, and we'll see what happens at that point. We're gonna try to preserve the camping at that point, but as of March 2nd, we're not gonna be able to. Between March 2nd and whenever the evidentiary hearing is going to be, we can't camp. Okay? You have a clarifying question?
So the way I read this, it
look like as of March 2nd, they're enjoined from removing any camping materials until March 2nd. But I didn't see anything in there that said they're enjoined from ticketing campers prior to March 2nd. Does that mean they could start enforcing that part of it tonight?
That is absent from the decision, and that's one of the reasons why, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be reaching out to the state, trying to set up a meeting to sit down with the state officials, state's attorneys, and ascertain exactly what their intent is on that. I would note that also the decision was silent as to the time on March 2nd, although the Judge Winmill did indicate that we should, in all fairness, have until the end of the week, and I took that to mean probably 5 p.m. on Friday. There was no time set, so these are some of the issues that we'll be trying to address with the state, trying to clean up some of the details on that. So, here we are, guys. So, are there any other questions, or?
Yeah, can you address the rally at 5 o'clock tonight, and do you need LOs there?
You know, it's never a bad idea to have LOs present, but I don't believe the state's going to show up.
But there's still a rally?
I'm sorry?
There still will be a rally.
I hope so. I hope there's 1,000 people down on this site at 5 p.m.
Darn right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any reasonable expectation that the legislature might revisit this, to rewrite it, to make it more compatible with Judge Winmill's statements here?
The possibility exists, and it will exist until the legislature is out of session, and we're keeping an eye on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? All right, guys. Yield the floor.